Hello and welcome to this new video. Today I want to talk to you about 3CX from a slightly different perspective than usual. Not so much about configurations, but about its features and the reasons why someone should choose 3CX. I'll also share some of my direct experiences with 3CX compared to other vendors, especially one very famous one in particular. And most importantly, I'll discuss integration. So first of all, let's take a look at what 3CX is. Most likely, you would answer that it's a phone switchboard. And I have to tell you that's wrong, because 3CX is not just a phone switchboard. It's a true communication platform. You can integrate 3CX with practically everything, like Office 365. Teams, Salesforce, you can integrate it with WhatsApp, Facebook, and so on and so forth. My version of 3CX is the free one, which we'll look at immediately, which is this one. Here it is. Here are the 3CX license prices, of course, and I have this one, 0. Are you paying? 0. This, not for a day or two, mind you, but forever, and I'm on the 3CX cloud. Keep in mind that 3CX is extremely versatile, so you can find it on Amazon AWS, on Microsoft's cloud, or you can install it directly on a computer in your company. Don't want a computer? Because maybe you say, but I don't want a computer because why should I set up a computer just for 3CX? You can even install it on a Raspberry Pi if you want. The Raspberry Pi, for those who don't know what it is a kind of tiny computer about this big that costs €100 on Amazon. You install 3CX, connect it to the network, and you're ready to go. And it's not just a figure of speech when I say you're ready. You really are ready to go. And now I'll show you how it's done. Oh, by the way, the sponsor of this video is 3CX. So I have my 3CX here, as you can see, with 2 users, and obviously I don't have the phone number. Now, this is the free version up to 10 users. What does up to 10 users mean? It means I can register 10 users and only 1 user at a time can call external numbers. So this is free. Then with a simple click, I go here to admin, because at the bottom left, because this is the 3CX administrator portal, voice and chat, add trunk. For those who don't know what a trunk is, it's actually very simple in this case too. The trunk is basically the phone number. I choose the country I'm interested in my case, Italy. Below, under trunk, I have the recommended or the one supported by 3CX. You choose, you register with the provider. Let's say I choose the recommended one, I register, then the provider obviously gives me the username and password and the phone number. Then if I know how to do it, I enter everything in the various fields. Otherwise, there's also a guide if you don't know how. Then I was talking about integrations. Let's take a closer look at these integrations for a moment. The free version doesn't have integrations, but I can still show them to you. Integration. See, here you can open a contact in the supported CRM, and I have several options. Agile, ConnectWise, Dynamics 365, Freshdesk, Google Contacts, HubSpot, InsigNet, Salesforce, Zendesk, Zoo CRM. Here in the free version, Office 365 is missing, but it does exist. It is available. So let's take a look, again, based on my experience, at the integration. 3CX, as I mentioned, can integrate it. For example, let's take the 3 most popular ones: Facebook, WhatsApp, and Microsoft Office 365. Facebook, let's take a real example. I have a small business, a restaurant. I want to book a table at the restaurant for tonight at 9. Usually everyone either calls the restaurant or goes to the Facebook page and sends a message. Here we run the risk that the person responding isn't actually at the restaurant and maybe doesn't know, for example, whether the table I want to book at 9 will be available or if it's even possible to make the reservation. Now, by integrating Facebook with 3CX or 3CX with Facebook, whichever way you prefer, I, as a customer, can send you a message. You read the message and can share it with your staff because let's say someone is actually at the restaurant. So you share the message with the person who is at the restaurant and you're immediately ready to tell me whether the table is available or not. But even more than that, since 3CX is web-based, you can have, as I've seen in many restaurants, a small tablet on the restaurant's front desk where you can see all your contacts and all the chats. Then we have integration with WhatsApp. Everyone has WhatsApp, just like Facebook. I integrate it with WhatsApp, and what can I do, for example? I can make it so that customers can contact me via WhatsApp from my e-commerce website. So in this case, 3CX integrates WhatsApp for me, and in addition to being able to call me, customers can also chat with me through WhatsApp. In the chat, I showed how simple and easy it is to configure 3CX for the website. I did it myself. It's extremely easy, it just takes a few clicks. And what happens then? Anyone viewing my website has the option to chat with me, and I receive the messages through 3CX. Perfect, everything's great. Now let's take a look for a moment. The user, I create a user, which here too is incredibly, disarmingly simple. I go to Administrator, Users, Add User, and here I enter all the details. First name, last name, email. Then I will receive the email. This email will contain the various phone numbers and, most importantly, a link that, when clicked, allows me to set the password. Once I've set the password, I can log into my 3CX portal. At this point, here under the three dots, Settings, scan the code. I simply scan the code with my phone, and just like that, I am online. Look, I will show you precisely how incredibly simple it truly is to do this. Look, I am calling 3CX, I am calling my own extension with the 3CX app, and here it is, right here. And over here, it's ringing. I genuinely don't need anything else at all. 3CX also conveniently has a dedicated Windows application if you specifically want to utilize it, but it truly works perfectly and seamlessly through the web browser interface. Then, of course, up here there's a green dot because I'm available, but otherwise I can set it to Do Not Disturb and I won't receive calls anymore. Now, still regarding integration, let's talk about Office 365 and its integration. Why do I need it? What is it for? Well, let me give you an example. The switchboard I manage has about 70 to 80 phone numbers and roughly 800 people, 800 users. When, in a large company, new employees are hired or some leave, the service desk, the IT department, creates the user, enters the name, password, email, and so on. Then sends me a message saying, Valeria, the user Mario Bianchi has arrived, create an account on 3CX. I log into 3CX, enter the first name, last name, phone number, email, and so on, and then the user receives the email, and that's the end of the story. By integrating it with Office 365, as soon as the IT department creates the password, username, and email, it gets synchronized with 3CX. Furthermore, with 3CX, or even when integrated with Office 365, I have the entire list of users, which is a wonderful thing, but it doesn't end there because I can set up SSO, which is for security. So basically, for those who aren't in the field, with a single password, I can log into the computer, to email, and to 3CX. Backup in SharePoint, but it doesn't stop at just backup in SharePoint. I can create real reports. Think about call centers. When someone has a call center, managing it from the phone side is a nightmare when there are many groups, queues, different languages, various SIP trunks, as I mentioned before, phone numbers, different users, people coming and going. In short, things start to get a bit complicated, and so does management, not to mention the calls that need to be recorded. How much space do those take up as well? Because then they also have to be stored according to GDPR. They have to be kept for a certain number of years. I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's at least 5 years, and 5 years is a long time, plus there are a lot of calls. So for example, by using 3CX in the cloud, you have the benefit that you don't have these problems. You don't have issues with power outages. You don't have to worry about updates. You don't have hardware problems. You don't have to manage calls or recordings because you keep everything on the 3CX cloud. And of course, 3CX is compliant with European and international laws regarding security, privacy, and everything else, so you can rest easy about that. My experience with 3CX is that I used to manage a PBX from a world-famous networking brand, which works well, very well in fact, but it has one small problem. It's extremely complicated to manage. But I'm not just talking about adding a user, which was already unthinkable, but really about managing phone numbers, call forwarding, the IVR, for example. The IVR, if you don't know what it is that automated system that says press 1 to speak with X, press 2 to speak with Y, and press 3 to speak with Z, for example. With the PBX I was using, it was a disaster, to the point that we needed another person, a consultant, specifically for that PBX. A disaster. On top of the cost of the PBX and the licenses, which, let's talk about that, at that point we migrated to 3CX. And I can guarantee you that we haven't had a single problem since. Well, maybe a few minor issues. No issues at all. Entities, management, queues, groups, calls, forwarding, zero problems. Then let me tell you this too. A few weeks ago, a colleague reached out to me, a colleague in Italy. He tells me he has a significant problem with a particular PBX he found. Basically, it's an older legacy PBX system, but he genuinely wanted to carefully reuse it. And what he specifically wanted to do was with the interactive voice response, or IVR, so press 1 to talk to. During the entire day, all the office phones needed to continuously ring, and up to this precise point, everything was perfectly fine. Then the interactive voice response system with a specific option, I believe it was option number 3, was specifically designed and intended to directly contact the office manager or the designated employer in the event of an urgent emergency situation. I cannot recall the precise details at this moment, but that was indeed the fundamental concept and underlying intention behind it all. Well, this PBX doesn't do that. Why? Because the same user, let's say his name is Mario, was part of the daily call group, so it wasn't possible to forward calls directly to Mario. The call had to go through the group no matter what. But the call never actually reached Mario. Why? This desperate colleague asked me, but how come? So I told him, look, switch to 3CX because not only does it cost nothing, if you obviously get the free version, and the free version doesn't have the IVR functionality and doesn't have any significant issues, because the problem with dropped or poor quality calls is a very real and pressing issue. So in my professional opinion, as a dedicated user of 3CX, but more importantly, as a seasoned network specialist, my strong recommendation is to thoroughly try out 3CX. You can easily find the comprehensive list of authorized 3CX partners right here on their official website. When you navigate to the license page, you will clearly see that it explicitly states buy via partner. You put Italy here, select a country, let's say Tuscany, for example. I'm a bit biased towards Tuscany, and here you find all the partners. So if you clearly want more information, you call the partner. The information can also be found on the 3CX website, and it's very clear. But anyway, you call the partner and say, hi partner, I'm interested in 3CX. I'd like to know a bit more. And you'll notice that the costs are practically negligible. Municipalities could save a lot of money because some municipalities have switchboards that are extremely complicated. It feels like piloting the space shuttle. But schools have told me, they've informed me, specifically regarding schools, that some large telephone companies offering VoIP services actually bring you the cables. The cables. They literally bring you the cables. In fact, another colleague was telling me, he said, yeah, but here they broke through the wall to run the phones, the new phone lines. I said, excuse me, but do they know that VoIP exists? He said, yes, but that's for VoIP. With 3CX, you don't have these problems. Then with the cloud solution, wherever you are, for example, for those who work remotely, I have the company phone so they can call me if they need to, and if I need to, I use the 3CX app to make calls. I don't use my personal phone, that is my personal number, but I use the company phone, so the company's number, whether I need to make a call or if someone needs to call me. Then, when I no longer need to be called, I simply set my status to do not disturb, offline, or I just log out of 3CX on my phone and no one can call me anymore. So the advantages are really numerous. You have video calls, you have groups, video calls like Teams, and you can even integrate it with Teams if you want. From today, instead of saying call me, you can say 3CX me.